Hello, I'm Archie Luxury and welcome to the program. Today I'd like to talk about the craziness that is society in general. And I mean, you know, it's kind of a weird times we live in. People have never been so fat, overweight, and unathletic. And so what's the number one genre of wristwatch? It's the sports watch. The sports watch. And it's quite an oxymoron. Just as people are at record levels of obesity and lack of exercise, the genre of the big, chunky sports watch is all the rage. And all these watches are tool watches bought mainly by tools. And that's why I don't have any diving watch in my collection. I don't have, you know, that genre, the sports watch, I try and avoid. The only sports watch I've got, which is a true sports watch, is my Breguet. And that's like owning a Ferrari, you know. It's such a strong brand, even I can pull it off. And the sports watch, the genre of the sports watch, I mean, what has happened? I mean, you look at these things, people have never been so lazy, so fucking unmotivated to do manual labor, but the sports genre is through the roof. And it's just quite crazy. And I just wanted to hear what other people think of this. And why is it so? And in the 70s, the 60s and 70s, a fine wristwatch was a very thin. It was thin as possible, and it was relatively small in proportions. Now, it's got to be a huge, over 40 mil type piece. And it's just crazy. It's an oxymoron. And one of the interesting developments is that the traditional, what was traditionally a sports watch, as society has become more and more less formal, what was once a sports watch is now considered a dress watch. A few cases in point. Namely, we'll start firstly with my Reverso. Now the Reverso itself, it came out in the 1930s, the early 30s, 31. And it originally, it was a watch for polo players. As much as I despise British officers, it was invented for these toffee-nosed fuckers to ponce around on horses in India, in the fucking heat. And it was considered a sports watch. It was the whole purpose of the Reverso was so that you could flip it to protect the glass, so that when you got whacked or came to a sudden stop, or you know, or anything was happening, you could avoid damage to your watch. And over time, the Reverso was reintroduced. It sort of went through a rise of popularity. Then circular watches came more into fashion, and then when it came out, it suddenly now, the modern type Reverso, like my Reverso Grand Date, instead of having a protective back, it's also got a display back to show off that fabulous movement. And it's a very, very interesting development. So it's gone from being a very rugged type of sports watch into a very, very, it's a dress watch. The watch snob said, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso is the ultimate dress watch. And although I disagree with the watch snob on many things, he has got a point there. And it is really, a Reverso is now a dress watch. And the same can be said for a couple other classic iconic watches. I mean, the Rolex Datejust. I mean, it's a very, very iconic type of watch, but you ask many people about it, and it's a dress watch, it's a formal watch, it's a businessman's watch, when reality is it's 100 meters waterproof, fuck's sake. For fuck's sake, 100 meters waterproof? That's a lot more than a lot of sports watches. And when it originally came out, the Datejust was advertised on the Datejust brochure, the little catalogue on how to set it. It had polo players, sportsmen, horses, and, you know, active lifestyle. Now, the genre of this watch is such that it's now considered a smart, formal type watch. It's a dress watch. And another classic case in point is the Audemars Piguet the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. The Royal Oak. Sorry, my auto cue's fucked up. The Royal Oak. The Royal Oak came out in 1972, introduced steel as a luxury metal, and it was really a sports watch. Now, the classic Royal Oak, it's been replaced by the Royal Oak Offshore series. That's the sports series. The Royal Oak series is now considered a formal dress watch. And it's very, very interesting. Even pieces like the Cartier Santos, that came out as a competitor to the Rolex Datejust. And the Cartier Santos is really quite a formal watch. So much so they had to completely revise it and make a big monstrosity chunky bugger to fill that niche. And it's kind of strange. It's this crazy obsession, which is, as society has become more and more casual, traditional sports pieces, those 4 watches I've named, have become dress pieces. And the classic thin dress watch from the 1960s, say a 33mm 2-hand or 3-hand watch, is now at a size that it's more of a lady's watch. And it's quite disappointing. Society has become more and more casual. We don't wear a suit for all the jobs. In the old, you know, going back 30, 40, 50 years, people were a lot more formal. They'd wear a lot more suits. People owned suits. They actually went to work in a suit. Now, they don't tend to do that. A tie is an optional thing. And this is what's happening. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just how things have changed. And it's quite funny. Many things like mobile phones. Mobile phones. If you saw the phone in Wall Street, it was a big brick. Now, the smaller, the better. And what's happening then is that things like ghetto blasters, they went huge. And wristwatches are going big. And it's quite an interesting development. I'm Archie Luxury. Tell me what you think of this change in society.